진행을 할 텐데요. 진행하실 지금 카지야마 유스케 상 같은 경우에는 재팬 APEC MySQL 기술 총괄을 맡고 계시고요. 그래서 패브릭이 사실 최근에 릴리스가 됐는데 패브릭에 들어가는 것과 유틸리티 쪽은 저희가 다 파이썬으로 코드가 되어 있거든요. 그래서 그것과 함께 또 사실 파이썬 사용하시는 분들이 뒤쪽에 MySQL을 많이 사용하기 때문에 HA 기능이 들어가 있는 패브릭이 어떻게 사용할 수 있는지란 데모 부분을 진행을 해주실 거고요. 끝나고 나면 아마 질문사항을 받을 텐데 지금 영어로 진행을 하실 거기 때문에 혹시 질문사항이 있으시면 그냥 한국말로 해주시면 제가 통역을 해드린 다음에 다시 답변을 받아서 말씀을 드릴 수 있으니까 편하게 진행하시면 될 것 같습니다. 소개해 드릴게요. 여기 책 2권이 있는데 좋은 질문을 하신 분들께 드리라고 하신 것 같아요. 그래서 질문하시면 받아가실 수 있을 것 같습니다. 좋은 시간 되셨으면 좋겠습니다.
Alright, thank you for introduction. Alright, good afternoon everyone. My name is Ryusuke Kajiyama. I'm Sales Consulting Manager of MySQL. Today, I'd like to introduce MySQL Fabric as well as there are a number of tools written in Python around MySQL, so I'd like to introduce those tools as well. The first of all, my big apology, I'm still learning Korean, so my presentation will be everything in English. After the session, we will have time for Q&A. If you want to ask a question in your language, Sumi, she will help me for translation, and actually she can answer some questions, I'm so sure. So today, I'm presenting as a MySQL person, but you see presentation is red. It's Oracle's red. Yes, now MySQL is part of Oracle Corporation, but I'm originally from a small company named MySQL AB. It's a Swedish company. My entire team was purchased by Sun Microsystems and purchased by Oracle. Now MySQL is independent business unit named the MySQL Global Business Unit, doing development, support, consulting, and support in one team. So we are part of Oracle Corporation, but we are not selling Oracle DB, we are not selling other tools. We are focusing on MySQL development and its business. You may remember Sun was purchased by Oracle, but it's already 4.5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. And since then, under Oracle released a number of new versions of MySQL tools, server, clustering solution, including newest major version, MySQL 5.7, some tools like the MySQL Workbench I will introduce later, and including MySQL Fabric. Today, MySQL and Python has a really special relationship because main utilities around MySQL, everything written in Python. So that's the reason I'm here today at the PYCON Korea, celebrating first PYCON Korea event. By the way, I was speaking at the PYCON Singapore, I'm speaking in PYCON Japan and India, and my colleague will participate in PYCON Kiwi, because Python language is really important to MySQL today, and it helps you to use MySQL and manage MySQL. But before going into details, as of today, we are developing next major version of MySQL 5.5 MySQL Server, version number 5.7. In 1 month or so, you will see the next beta version of MySQL 5.7, still not released version, to be the under development. But we are improving performance, data integrity, and ease of use, and also expanding NoSQL interface to MySQL. We are still under development, but a green line at the bottom is an older version of MySQL 5.5. Blue line is today's major version MySQL 5.6. Red line on the top is the next version under development MySQL version 5.7. Oh, by the way, today's my session. Okay, today's my talk. Everything about open source version of MySQL. I will not talk anything about commercial version. So today's session, everything talking about community version. Yes, we are developing next version as a community version. In MySQL 5.6, we introduced a NoSQL API for MySQL, which means today MySQL, you can use MySQL as NoSQL, and we are improving that interface to way faster performance than now. Today's version MySQL 5.6, we can reach roughly 200 queries per second. Sorry, 200,000, excuse me. It's a huge number already, but we are making much bigger. And you might have heard about some information like MySQL has a forked version. Yes, we have several, not one or two, actually several different forked versions. The kind of problem we are hearing right now from customer, that's here complaint from customer, that some other forked version of MySQL are telling fake information. Because one of forked version named MariaDB were saying they are faster than MySQL. But here is the truth. Things in the middle. It's like it's a bit messy. Blue line is MySQL 5.6. Red line is 5.7. But let's talk about today's version. MySQL 5.6 is faster than orange line, which is Maria 10, which is the newest version of Maria. And last week or 2 weeks back, MariaDB people said the newer version of MariaDB is faster than MySQL 5.7, but that was not true. They did a fake benchmark. It's a really not good thing to do. If you check the blog, they are saying MariaDB is faster, but you check the comments, they actually said, okay, this is not true. So it's not really good news for us. But again, MySQL is doing as usual and releasing a lot of community versions. And one interesting community version around MySQL is MySQL Fabric. It's open source product, and also MySQL Workbench. So let me quickly introduce a tool named MySQL Workbench, which is a GUI tool. You can manage, develop SQL statement, or you can do the database design with this tool named MySQL Workbench. So this is a tool named MySQL Workbench, which is a GUI tool for MySQL, which helps your SQL statement development. You connect database, looking for the SQL statement. Here is the SQL statement you received from your colleague to help to tune this SQL statement. Looks a bit messy, but still better, but a bit messy. You can clean up with this icon. Now it looks better. When we execute SQL statements, you will see the result on the bottom, but you may want to know how these queries were executed. If you want to check how MySQL server decided to execute this one, click button right here. Click button right here. You will see nice output we call Visual Explain. How MySQL server decided to execute these queries. This query has a subquery. So the right hand side is subquery, joining two tables. With some reason, this table country, we are doing full table scan because then it's red. Green, we are using index. Blue, we are using primary key. So it should be okay. But largest problem can be the one colored with red. This is part of the function of MySQL Workbench. You can create and view. You can create and view ER diagram to design database. Double click table name you will see the column definitions and so on. But again, why it's related to Python is here. We can expand functions of MySQL Workbench with Python. We have a scripting shell. Sorry, it's open on this screen. Has a lot of information. What kind of class you can use related to MySQL Workbench. For example, if you need to access schema of MySQL through your Python script, here's a class already designed for the database access and table access. So if you need to create some kind of script which access to MySQL Server for maintenance and so on, this console will help. And you can run from this MySQL Workbench GUI, or you can kick as an independent program if you need. So that's one thing related to MySQL and Python. So again, MySQL Workbench is a GUI, help you developing, designing, and developing your SQL or application using SQL statements. You can do the administration, or through this dashboard, you can see what's going on in your MySQL server about network transfer, server status, how many SQL statements were executed, and so on. So that's the first topic about MySQL and Python. Number 2 is this, named MySQL Utilities. You may feel like it's new software, but this is nothing new. First version of MySQL Utilities was released in year 2010. Sorry, 4 years ago. So it's no brand new software. If you didn't know, please know. Now you know. MySQL Utility is a group of scripts written in Python. Again, it's a perfect tool for engineers here to utilize and look into or modify, customize, and making something new. It's designed for database maintenance, some operations, replication environment management, plus configuration management. Current version number is 1.4. We are soon to release 1.5 in the near future, I mean in a month or so. It covers most of the common operations we are doing day to day if you need to touch database as well from your besides your application development. Again, it's fully written in Python. And you can modify or you can create your own scripts as a part of utilities. In the main screen of MySQL Workbench, there is an icon that says MySQL Utilities. Once you click it, you will see this kind of output. Tells you what kind of utilities you can use. This is not only end, there's much more. The one of the interesting scripts you can utilize day to day is DB compare script. With DB compare, we can compare the database definition between two MySQL servers. For example, development environment and test environment, where the MySQL has the same schema, same table definition, or even same data. It's really important. Sometimes someone tested on your lab, on your environment, no error. Good news. Going to test the environment, some error. Why? We can compare with this script instantly. It's really easy to use. It will give some outputs telling what's the difference. So you want to check difference of two servers. You need to specify server 1 and server 2 within this format, and output will tell you here is a difference in this output. Yeah, there are minor difference. So to change it, so here's the difference. Some table has a different record at the bottom. Server 1 has a never enough ink. Server number 2 has some other company's name. So based on this, you can modify your record to make it same. The record test and development, production and development, whatever. You can check with this tool. Some other solutions, having two master server and copying data into one server. The one of the largest problem, if you are accessing two masters at a time, slave server became too busy. So now what we are developing right now in MySQL is multi-thread slave, which accelerates performance concurrent operation in slave server, as well as multi-source replication. Without multi-thread slave, if you had a two source copying data from, it kills slave performance. So current alternate option is this script. It's accessing master number one. Then after like 5 seconds to 1 minute, switching to master number two, receiving all information, coming back to master number one, vice versa. It's do the round robin access to master. This is part of the MySQL utilities. All you need is specify who is a slave, who are masters. And it will automatically switches master one by one, automatically. So this script will be kind of the monitoring daemon and monitoring environment. For more details, this is just brief overview of architecture. Internally, it's using connector Python. Connector Python has connector library to connecting to MySQL server. If you're using Python on the MySQL, you have to use this library anyways. And there's a common plus library. It has a number of common operations like connecting database servers, sending SQL statement requests, and so on. So if you look into this class, you will see all the basic operation connecting to database, do SQL operation. Any basic operations are already prepared. So which means you don't have to write your own code. Just kick commands in methods in these classes. So that's kind of so brief, but an overview of the modules included in MySQL utilities. Again, we have lots of snippets we call small chunk of source code for the basic operation, connecting database or executing non-SQL commands or SQL commands, and so on. So this is MySQL utility. Again, MySQL utilities. Again, it covers a lot of database basic operation. If you want to copy all the database information, or if you want to copy only user definition, username and access control, we also have those scripts. We also help monitoring replication environment with a single command named repl show command, showing replication topology, who is master, who is slave of which master, and so on. Again, all licensed to GPL, so you can free to use, it's free to use, free to modify, and we really want to hear from you what kind of scripts are still missing as a day-to-day operation. What kind of bugs you encounter? Please let us know. We love to improve. We are rapidly improving these products, and soon we will do the major updates. But again, we keep these products as a community version, as well as of course commercial customers, but it's for everyone. Then, as part of MySQL utilities, we introduce a new script and a framework named MySQL Fabric. MySQL Fabric is designed for the high availability as well as sharding configuration. High availability, if you are using database, you need a high availability. That's kind of mandatory to have. What is sharding? Sharding is the technology, the word when we need to manage large amount of data and storing into different data store. If we have only one MySQL server, we can store up to a certain point because limited by the size of hardware, limited by the access speed maybe. So we split data into multiple MySQL servers. The problem is, if we split data into server 1, 2, 3, 4, application may need to know where is your data. With MySQL Fabric, it helps application developers to have much easier development to accessing those splitted, distributed record with MySQL Fabric as a framework. So MySQL Fabric is designed for the high availability because MySQL Fabric node in the blue boxes will monitor replication environment. In the same time, we have like 6 MySQL servers on the left-hand side. We have 6 MySQL servers in the bottom. We have 2 groups. Group 1 keeps part of data. Group number 2 is keeping some other part of data. And in each group, it has a master server and slave server. This high availability function of Fabric, if master was killed, one slave server to be new master, all other slave server will talk with new master. If one slave server was killed, well, just one slave was removed from whole group because other slave we can read the data from other slave server. Then sharding function. We can divide data into multiple servers as if it's like doing partitioning over servers. Part of data is in group number 1. Other part of data comes to group number 2. We can divide record either by range or hash. Range can be easier to understand. ID number from 1 to 1000, go left hand side. ID number 1001 and above come to left hand side. So that's the kind of way we split data into multiple servers. Then another key thing is red box in this presentation says connector. Because MySQL Fabric consists with MySQL Fabric node, which is kind of the daemon monitoring environment, and connector connecting from your application. When your application is connecting to this environment with 12 MySQL servers, application or connector do not have to know how many servers we have, who is master, who is slave. All application developer have to remember is where is MySQL Fabric node. In this diagram, those blue boxes. Then when application is talking, application is about talking with backend database, MySQL servers. Before going to database, application will talk with Fabric node and fetching, receiving all topology, layout information of MySQL servers. But all application developer have to do is talk with Fabric node. Fabric node tells application, here's master slave of group A, here's master slave of group B, and so on. Then connector can talk with which server I need to talk with. For example, if I need to update record of ID number 500, record of 500 is stored in left hand side. And since we are updating, we need to talk with master server. But all application have to know is where is Fabric node. Talk with Fabric node. I'm about updating record 500. Here's the layout, and here's the server you have to talk with. That's all told by external resource named MySQL Fabric node. So these are things I was talking. From your application written in Python, by the way, we support Java and PHP, but thing is, Fabric node is written in Python. All Fabric node source code is written in Python. Application talk with Fabric node and receiving, it says coordination and control. Yes, receiving all layout information of backend server, as well as Fabric node is monitoring this environment. If one MySQL was killed, it will do automatic failover. MySQL Fabric works with MySQL Server 5.6 and above. Unfortunately, we are not supporting MySQL 5.5. It supports Python 2.6 and 2.7. And someone wrote here, no support for 3.x yet. Do we need? I don't think so for that. It requires connector Python. It's actually always mandatory if you're developing application with MySQL. So this MySQL Fabric program is having MySQL Server inside. But in this replication configuration and in slides from now, we talk about primary and secondary. Primary is a master server who receives all the updates, inserts, deletes. Secondary server is working as a slave server, handling all select operations. Fabric node internally using MySQL Server. Because Fabric node have to know the topology, layout of servers, and those information as well as sharding definition are stored into MySQL Server within Fabric node. So Fabric node is kind of a server facing to application, but as well as storing information to its own MySQL Server. We call backing store. But don't worry, backing store is just small process. We don't only accessed by the application when looking for servers. No application data will be stored. Only definitions of layout, topology, and so on. As of today, we are using XML RPC from connector Python to Fabric node. But we are changing it. Today's version MySQL Fabric 1.4 is using XML-PC, but from next version of MySQL Fabric, soon to be released, we'll use MySQL native protocol. But from application point of view, that change does nothing for your application. All your application coding will not be changed much. Oops. So we usually say set of servers as a group. Like on right hand side, it looks like one big server, but internally it has actual 3, 4, starting from 2 or up to several MySQL servers. And one of the servers in single group will be primary server. Other servers will be secondary. It's linked with MySQL replication. So one server is working for the read-write operation, slave servers, or secondary servers in this definition, working for read-only operation. Then how it works. So first of all, MySQL, we need to boot MySQL Fabric node, which is kind of a server, monitoring the environment as well as storing all configuration. Then we will type MySQL Fabric command. As always, telling Fabric node, which is working as a daemon, tell Fabric node, I want to create a new group. And the group, in this case, we only have single group. And adding servers into this group. Server 1, server 2. Mods XYZ, ZY, that's a user and a password of these servers to connect. Then, one group named my group have 2 servers, server 1 and a 2. This is an important step for the HA configuration. Who to be master server, who to be slave will be decided by the command named the promote command. Promote command automatically select one of the servers in the group to be a master. Then type activate command will activate failure monitoring. In case of failure of primary server in this group, secondary server will be promoted as a new primary, which means new master. We can have more than two servers in a single group. if we have like 5 servers, typing promote command, one of server out of these 5 servers will be new master, 4 servers will be slave of master. In case of failure, detected by failure detector, for one of 4 slave servers. One of 4 slave servers will be new master, 3 slave servers will talk with new master. So that's a HA, high availability function of MySQL Fabric. Another is sharing configuration. If you have a huge amount of record, you may not be able to store into one server. Also, if your data is growing, you want to have scale out architecture. So you can store more bigger data than before. And we can distribute workload to improve performance. Then what MySQL Fabric can do is support all SQL operations, and it gives virtual connection to all servers. But from application point of view, there's only one connection. Actually, it can access to all servers behind. That's why it says like logical connection. It can access to multiple tables. Multiple tables can be shared, split into multiple tables. Multiple servers. If you have the same shared key and same body range, those records will be stored into one server. For example, table A is split by the user ID. Table B is also having the primary key as a user ID. If we define range of records stored into server 1 by user ID, range of user ID, table A's record of user ID number 100, table B's user ID record 100 will be stored into the same server. So we can fetch record of those records from the single server. It supports global updates. Global updates means after we split tables into multiple tables, we may want to update everything, or we want to change table definition. In that case, I do not want to talk with every single servers. I want a single outer table statement will be reflected to all servers. So in the sharing configuration, we will have a special group named the global group. First of all, global group global group is a master of all shares. This is only used for the global updates, which means changing record of all shares or changing table definitions of all shares. And within each shares, we may have multiple MySQL servers. So in this diagram, we can have the multiple servers in each global group and each shares. It can be 2, it can be 4, it can be much more especially for each group. If we have a huge amount of read access, we can add more slave servers into each shares. So that's a kind of overview design of Fabric with sharing. Following the example is talking about global group and each shared group. Shared group, yes, each shares can have multiple servers. So we usually call as a shared group. Then each shares will have multiple servers, but as an entire shares, that will be the one large table. And not only one table, multiple tables can be stored in all shares. Whoops. So creating shares first we need to make groups. We need to make multiple groups like a global group and adding server. We saw the adding server in previous slides. Making group, add shares, and one more step is we need to define shares. MySQL Fabric command and tells MySQL Fabric node table A's primary key, table A's this column with shadow key, and it will be spread by range or hash. We can define those ones with commands. We can move existing shares to someone else, and we can spread data into multiple servers. Here's the example. In this source code, it tells Fabric node which table will be spread in, by which key. In this case, employee table and employee title table is split by employee number. And when we are inserting information, we don't need any database information because we need one more line on the top with where is Fabric node. But we don't have to know anything about actual of database location. And we can do the select from this certain node, certain share. We can have the option named read-only option if needed. It will read from slave server. We can do global update. If we set the scope is global, we will talk with Fabric node, global group. As of today, we support a number of features, but we have several limitations. We can do the range sharding, but we want to add more option for the splitting data. We are about supporting any kind of the OR mapper for the Python. We haven't done yet. We are working on. We want to add more functions into MySQL Fabric because there are some limitations. Fabric node is currently a single node, but each connectors can cache topology information. So even Fabric node was killed, you can utilize cached record in the connector, and then without Fabric node you can access backend anyways. We are not supporting cross-shared joins. So one query is need to access multiple shares to fetching record to join with other table. That's not supported. That's kind of a limitation, but we are already fixing the issue, and soon we should be able to release sometime soon. So this is just a brief overview. I covered 3 topics today: Workbench, MySQL utilities, and MySQL Fabric. Again, all those are supporting Python in some way. Workbench extension is you can write in Python. Utilities and Fabric is fully written in Python. And especially for the Fabric, you can use MySQL Fabric framework from your Python application to create shared database environment. So today only limited time, so I just explain the overview. I didn't do any actual demo, but we are having MySQL user group in Korea, and we are doing demo or more deeper discussion. And Oracle is also planning to deliver an event sometime in the end of October. Not fixed yet, but it should be the end of October. We can explain more details of the newest updates or development of MySQL. Okay, so it's pretty much the end of time. We want to jump into the Q&A. Any questions? Okay, so first one is a person in red shirt, t-shirt. Second person is black shirt right there. You number sorry. So.
네. 5.7에서요. 다른 노엑스QL 같은 뭐 RESTful 서버나 뭐 맨 민수 같은 게 지원이 되는지, 왜 지원이 안 된다면 왜 안 되는 줄 알고.
MySQL 질문 다시 한번. 저희가 지금 5.6에서 맨캐시드는 제공을 하고 있는데 그 외에 RESTful은 네.
맨 민수 같은 거
네.
되는지.
네, 5.7에서요.
네, 안 되면 왜 안 되는지.
support any map reduce function in Part 7 or RESTful support?
So-
We have RESTful API, but
RESTful
not
API.
He mentioned.
Yeah, so
RESTful
MySQL,
support.
MySQL cluster does support RESTful API,
Mm.
and the MapReduce function we integrate with Hadoop. MySQL itself does not have it. You got it?
Yep. Hadoop has.
Hadoop is the MapReduce itself. Okay, then we have the Hadoop applier under development.
아,
네, 저희가 직접적으로 MySQL 자체에는 MReduce를 제공하고 있지 않지만 사실 빅데이터를 사용하시는 쪽에서 하둡이랑 같이 연계된 MySQL이랑 연계된 게 거의 80% 정도 되거든요. 그래서 그렇게 사용을 하실 수가 있고 또는 하둡 어플라이어라고 해서 MySQL 어플라이어 for 하둡이라고 해서 연계되는 솔루션이 지금은 베타 버전이긴 하지만 나와 있는 상태고요. 그다음에 RESTful API 같은 경우에는 저희가 MySQL 자체에서는 제공을 하고 있지 않지만 MySQL 클러스터 제품에서는 제공을 하고 있어요. 네, 아까 네 그렇습니다. 네, 네 영어 하세요.
Sure.
Okay, so basically MySQL Fabric controls the interceptor real number.
Yes.
MySQL service, right? But it's as far as I know, MySQL scales out horizontally. What you said sounds like it's vertical. Can you just tell me? Is that
So if I understood your question properly, so Fabric is designed for the scaled out architecture. And your question is how MySQL can do the scale up?
No, I mean, is it horizontally or vertically?
Sorry?
Scaling.
Uh-huh.
Is it horizontal or vertical?
Or
Horizontal scaling or vertical?
Of course. Okay. So the question is MySQL Fabric or MySQL Server in general. It's more like a horizontal scale or vertical scale. MySQL is designed to be the horizontal scaling. And MySQL Fabric helps for the horizontal scaling, having more servers, more data capacity, having more servers, more performance.
Okay, so if you want to join all the tables, you need to just select all the nodes and select all the data.
Yes. So if we need to do the full table scan or
Okay.
join.
But just if you okay, if you want to join just two tables,
Yeah.
you have to join all the two tables.
So if you need to join two tables, which data is distributed in different way, which means sharing key was different. You may need to access all the servers. Yes.
So do we need to give a shard key or partition key when you query?
So as of today, with MySQL Fabric, that kind of operation is not supported to the join. We call cross-shard join. So we are actually developing that part.
His question
Yes.
is, do we have to give his shard key?
So if you are selecting from the certain shard, you know the old record you need is stored in one shard. I'll give shard key, and Fabric tells you which shard is storing that record. But if you are accessing not using shard key, it will go to all servers. But that behavior is not supported as of today. But we are fixing that one right now. And if you need to the cross-sharding join, we have actually an alternate option named the MySQL cluster. I didn't explain anything today, but that's an alternate option to realize those operations. Sure.
When you make a replication, you told me just copying is not inefficient, so you do run the robot also.
Sorry? No,
You
so
told me
what's the question?
when it makes a replication, you do it like by round robin, not just making copy.
So that's the replication script, I guess. It's a different one. This one?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one is different from Fabric. If we have two master server and one slave, first it connects to master one, fetching some information, copying from master 1 to slave server. And after 5 seconds, 10 seconds, depending on configuration, it switched to master 2.
Basically, it writes simultaneously.
It's not in parallel, it's one by one, and automatically switching back and forth.
So my question is, what is different with just copying it or just
It only fetches difference.
only sounds like similar.
It only fetches difference from the previous copy to slave server, and go to next server. It fetches the information, come back to original server. At a certain point, you already copied the data, so no, you don't have to copy everything. All you need is the difference from previous copy.
Okay, we have to.
저 시간이 다 돼서 점심 드시러 가셔야 된다고 해서요. 질문 남으신 분들은 남으시면 저희가 여기서 답변 드릴게요. 따로 나오시면.